My name is Mimi. I was born in Thailand, in a small town in Isan, far from Bangkok's bright lights. If you drive 8 hours through rice fields, you reach my hometown. That is where I grew up, surrounded by my mother, father, and younger brother. Unlike many stories you hear about transgender children, my childhood was not full of rejection. My family gave me freedom. My parents didn't tell me I was wrong when I wrapped scarves around my shoulders like gowns. My father stayed quiet. My mother sometimes laughed. But they let me be myself. At school I expected bullying, but I was lucky. My classmates accepted me. I learned to use humor as a shield. When boys teased me, I twirled like a beauty queen. Instead of isolation, I made friends laugh, and that gave me strength. By the age of 13, I knew I could not live inside a male body. I started taking hormones. I wanted to stop hair from growing, to prevent muscles from forming. Every pill was a step toward the girl I felt I was inside. At night, lying under the fan in our small house, I dreamed of long hair and dresses, and those dreams gave me hope. My father traveled often for work. He didn't try to push me into football or force me to cut my hair short. Maybe he didn't know what to do, but at least he didn't try to change me. My mother supported me most of all, quietly but consistently. Even my brother, though embarrassed sometimes, grew protective. Teachers treated me like any other student. I studied, passed exams, and thought about the future. Deep inside, I dreamed of something simple, earning money and opening a small restaurant in my hometown. A place where my parents could sit and eat food I cooked, where I could show I was not a failure. People assume transgender girls in Thailand always grow up facing rejection. That wasn't my story. Mine began with love. When strangers in Bangkok later judged me, I reminded myself, I am Mimi, daughter of a family who loved me. Years later, when I was 23, I had breast surgery. It was late compared to some, but the right time for me. Waking up from the operation, I looked at my chest and cried with joy. For the first time, my body reflected the woman I had always been, but back in those early school days, I didn't know what the future would bring. I only knew that I was different, and that I had the courage to live it. The hormones gave me strength, but also reminded me that nothing would be easy. Every step toward becoming myself would demand money, energy, and courage. Still, one truth burned inside me. I was Mimi. I was a girl. And no matter how long it took, I would live as the woman I was meant to be. My life changed completely when I left my hometown and moved to Bangkok. I was 18 when I first saw the neon lights of Nana Plaza, glowing like another world. People call it the Disneyland of sex, but for me it was something more complicated. It was a stage, a place where my identity could be both celebrated and exploited at the same time. The first time I walked past the crowded bars, music thundered through the air, mixed with laughter, cigarette smoke, and the clinking of glasses. I was nervous, holding my small bag, dressed in clothes that made me feel more like myself than I ever had back in Isan. My heart raced, not from excitement alone, but from fear of not being accepted, fear of failing, fear of what this world might demand from me. I had no experience. No one had taught me how to speak with foreign men, how to flirt, how to survive in an environment where every smile might mean money and every rejection meant hunger. My English was broken. When men spoke with heavy accents, I often understood nothing. I learned quickly to say, "Please, talk slowly." At first they laughed, but sometimes they were kind enough to slow their words. Each night became a lesson. The bar where I started was called Obsession, one of the most famous ladyboy clubs in Nana Plaza. For 7 months, that place became my training ground. On my very first night, the manager pushed me on stage. My legs trembled as the spotlight hit my face. Around me were other girls, more glamorous, more confident, some with years of experience. I tried to copy their movements, swaying to the music, smiling at the crowd. My lips trembled, but I forced them into a curve, and then it happened. A foreign man, probably American, pointed at me and said he wanted me. The manager nodded, and just like that, I was sold for the night. My stomach dropped, my heart pounded, but I told myself, "Mimi, you must be strong. This is the life you chose. This is how you will survive." The first customer was gentle, but it still felt strange. I had never been so close to a stranger before. I told myself I was acting, like playing a role in a movie. And maybe that is what sex work is sometimes. Acting, giving someone what they want, while hiding your own feelings. But I also learned something else. Customers are not only paying for many of them are lonely. They want company, someone to listen, someone to make them feel human again. In that way, I became not just a sex worker, but also a therapist, a friend, sometimes even a dream. Of course, it was not always easy. Some nights I cried in the bathroom, ashamed, confused. Other nights I laughed with customers who treated me with kindness. I discovered that my feelings could not be controlled. Some days I felt playful. Sometimes I wanted to be submissive, sometimes dominant. I could not always be what the customer wanted. And that made me realize, my job was not just about pretending, but about finding balance between my needs and theirs. Alcohol was everywhere. Men poured it into my glass as if it were water. I accepted beer, but nothing stronger. I had seen too many people destroy themselves with alcohol, including members of my own family. I refused to let that happen to me. I learned to sip slowly, to keep my head clear even when the night spun around me. Over time, I began to adjust. The noise no longer felt overwhelming. The stage became familiar. My English improved as I spoke with Americans, Europeans, Australians, even Japanese tourists. They all came to Nana Plaza searching for something: pleasure, adventure, escape. And in some way, I gave them what they came for, but inside, I never forgot why I was there. This was not forever. This was not the end of my story. Every night, as I counted my tips and placed a portion aside, I thought of my hometown. I thought of my parents, my brother, and the dream of a small restaurant. The bar was my present, but the restaurant was my future. Still, I cannot deny that part of me began to enjoy the work. The music, the lights, the attention. It awakened something. For once in my life, men desired me openly, without shame. For a transgender girl, that was powerful. Even if it was built on money, it gave me confidence I had never known before. Bangkok nightlife was dangerous and beautiful, cruel and exciting. It swallowed me whole, and at the same time, it gave me a place to exist. That first year was my education harder than school, more demanding than any exam. But I survived. And in surviving, I became stronger, ready for the battles yet to come. Relationships were even more difficult. I tried to open my heart. I met men who promised love, but love turned into demands. One man asked me for money constantly. Another stole from me. Trust became a dangerous game. Slowly, I decided it was better to stay single than to be betrayed again. I told myself I did not need a boyfriend. I only needed my family, my work, and my dream. Yet deep down, I longed for someone who would hold me without asking for anything in return. The hardest part of my job was not the physical side, it was the acting. Customers expected different roles, sometimes a submissive girlfriend, sometimes a playful fantasy, sometimes something darker. I had to shift depending on what they wanted. But I could not always control my own feelings. Some nights I laughed and played along. Other nights, I felt nothing and forced a smile. That was when the job felt heavy, like carrying a mask too long. Alcohol made it easier, but I resisted. I limited myself to beer, never stronger drinks. I knew how easily alcohol could become a prison. Customers often pushed glass after glass into my hands, but I learned tricks. Sip slowly, pretend to drink, pour a little away when no one was watching. I needed to stay in control, to protect myself. In Bangkok, ladyboys were everywhere, but that did not make life easy. We competed fiercely. Clubs were filled with beautiful girls, each one trying to survive. Customers compared us, judged us, sometimes treated us as if we were toys on a shelf. I had to remind myself constantly, I am not just a body, I am Mimi. I am human. Depression still followed me. Some mornings I woke up with no energy to face another night of pretending. I forced myself out of bed by remembering my goal, the restaurant. One day I would return to Isan with enough money to build it. That dream was the fire that kept me alive. Yet, in the middle of all this struggle, I also discovered strength. The bar was brutal, but it taught me resilience. I learned to manage my emotions, to smile even when my heart ached, to comfort strangers even while I needed comfort myself. And strangely, those skills made me proud. I was not just surviving, I was learning how to navigate a world that was never designed for girls like me. Life inside Nana Plaza was never just glitter. Beneath the music and the smiles, there was a darker rhythm. Some customers treated me kindly, but others crossed lines without hesitation. On stage I could pretend to be confident, but in the private rooms the truth came out. Men sometimes tried to touch me in ways that made my stomach turn. They pushed boundaries as if I were an object, not a person. I learned to pull their hands away, to speak firmly. But inside I carried the weight of those moments home with me. There were nights when I laughed while my heart screamed. I acted like the fantasy they wanted. But when I looked in the mirror afterward, I wondered, who am I in this life? The mask was heavy, and it grew heavier each week. Still, there were small victories. When a customer respected me, when he listened instead of demanded, I felt human again. Some told me about their life's wives back home, jobs they hated, secrets they carried. For a short time, I was their therapist, their escape. They left with lighter hearts, and I stayed behind, wondering why strangers could confide in me when my own family did not even know the truth. Outside the club, life was no easier. In Bangkok, transgender women were visible, but acceptance was limited. People smiled at us in the nightlife districts, but in the daylight world, many doors remained closed. Office jobs, government positions, even restaurants often refused to hire us. To survive, most of us turned to beauty salons, entertainment, or the sex industry. It was not always choice, it was survival. I knew people judged me the moment they looked at me. Some whispered ladyboy with curiosity, others spat the word with disgust. Once, in a store, a woman on the phone called me ugly demon right next to me. I reminded her softly, God says do not judge. She had no answer. I walked away proud, but the sting remained. Judgment always stings, no matter how strong you try to be. Sometimes I wondered if I had become exactly what society expected. A ladyboy in a neon bar, a body for sale. Was I living my truth, or just playing into their fantasy? But then I remembered. Every night I returned home, counted my money, and set aside the envelope for my family. That envelope was proof that my life had meaning. I was helping them, even if they didn't know how. Depression did not disappear. It came in waves, sudden and heavy. There were days I could not get out of bed, days when I thought nothing mattered. But then I looked at my cat's two small companions who loved me without conditions. They curled beside me, purring warmth back into my bones. With them, I felt less alone. The city itself was another mirror. Bangkok was chaotic, full of contradictions. In the same street, temples stood beside go-go bars. Monks walked past tourists holding beers. I fit into that chaos, half seen, half hidden. Part of the glitter and part of the shame. What hurt most was not the work itself, but the loneliness. I longed for real love. Not a customer, not a transaction, but someone who would look at me and see me. The girl from Isan who once dreamed of opening a restaurant. But each attempt ended in disappointment. Some men wanted money. Some only wanted the thrill of being with a transgender woman. None stayed. After too many heartbreaks, I told myself it was safer to keep my heart closed. Yet I never stopped hoping. In quiet moments, I still imagined a life beyond the bar. A life where I could wake up without makeup, without pretense, without fear. A life where my family finally knew the truth and loved me anyway. For now, I carried both worlds inside me. The performer bathed in neon, and the daughter sending money home in secret. Each role was real, and each role was exhausting. But together, they formed the woman I was becoming. I knew people judged me the moment they looked at me. Some whispered ladyboy with curiosity, others spat the word with disgust. Once, in a store, a woman on the phone called me ugly demon right next to me. I reminded her softly, God says do not judge. She had no answer. I walked away proud, but the sting remained. Judgment always stings, no matter how strong you try to be. Sometimes I wondered if I had become exactly what society expected. A ladyboy in a neon bar, a body for sale. Was I living my truth, or just playing into their fantasy? But then I remembered. Every night I returned home, counted my money, and set aside the envelope for my family. That envelope was proof that my life had meaning. I was helping them, even if they didn't know how. Depression did not disappear. It came in waves, sudden and heavy. There were days I could not get out of bed, days when I thought nothing mattered. But then I looked at my cat's two small companions who loved me without conditions. They curled beside me, purring warmth back into my bones. With them, I felt less alone. The city itself was another mirror. Bangkok was chaotic, full of contradictions. In the same street, temples stood beside go-go bars. Monks walked past tourists holding beers. I fit into that chaos, half seen, half hidden. Part of the glitter and part of the shame. What hurt most was not the work itself, but the loneliness. I longed for real love. Not a customer, not a transaction, but someone who would look at me and see Mimi, the girl from Isan who once dreamed of opening a restaurant. But each attempt ended in disappointment. Some men wanted money. Some only wanted the thrill of being with a transgender woman. None stayed. After too many heartbreaks, I told myself it was safer to keep my heart closed, yet I never stopped hoping. In quiet moments, I still imagined a life beyond the bar. A life where I could wake up without makeup, without pretense, without fear. A life where my family finally knew the truth and loved me anyway. For now, I carried both worlds inside me, the performer bathed in neon, and the daughter sending money home in secret. Each role was real, and each role was exhausting. But together, they formed the woman I was becoming. At 27, I sometimes feel old and young at the same time. Old because this job has forced me to grow up quickly, young because my life is still in front of me. People ask me what I want in 5 or 10 years, and my answer has always been the same. I want to save money and return to my hometown. I dream of opening a small restaurant. Nothing fancy, just a place with good food and warm light, where my parents can sit proudly and know their daughter built something real. Every month I send money home, and I imagine my mother holding the bills in her hands. She does not ask too many questions. Maybe she does not want to know. But I believe one day the truth will come out. Secrets never last forever. When that day arrives, I hope love will be stronger than shame. People often ask if I want marriage or children. In Thai culture, the answer is not simple. Some ladyboys find husbands, some don't. The law does not make it easy. For me, I don't know. I have been hurt too many times to dream too much about love. Yet my heart is not closed. I still hope that one day I might meet someone who accepts me, not just as a fantasy, not just as a transaction, but as Mimi, the woman I am. As for surgery, people wonder why I don't complete my transformation. My answer is simple. I don't feel the need. I already live as a woman, in my personality, my heart, and my daily life. Keeping part of myself does not make me less. For me, it is part of the miracle of being transgender. A mix of woman and man, a balance that is uniquely mine. I don't see it as a weakness. I see it as a kind of charm. Life still brings drama. Problems come, sometimes small, sometimes heavy. But I have learned not to run from them. Every problem teaches me something. Every heartbreak leaves a scar, but also a lesson. I have learned patience, resilience, and the ability to smile even when my heart is heavy. The most important lesson of all is this: happiness and pain both come from within. No one else can define my worth. Customers, strangers, even family, none of them can decide who I am. Only I can. I can choose to smile, to hope, to build a future. I can choose not to judge others, because judgment is poison. I know how it feels to be judged, to be called a demon, to be seen only as a body. That is why I refuse to judge anyone else. When I look back, I see a journey full of contradictions, love and loneliness, laughter and tears, survival and dreams. I see the little girl in Isan who wrapped scarves around her shoulders and imagined she was beautiful. I see the teenager taking hormones in secret, desperate to stop her body from betraying her. I see the young woman trembling on stage at Nana Plaza, stepping into a world of neon and danger. And I see myself now still here, still fighting, still dreaming. I don't know what the future will bring. Maybe I will succeed and open that restaurant. Maybe I will find love, or maybe I will live alone with my cats. But I know this: I will not give up. I will not allow the world to break me. I am Mimi, daughter of a family who loved me. A woman who chose her own path. Every day, when I wake up, I remind myself, life is not about perfection. It is about courage. And courage is something I have in abundance.